Hey, my good people. How we doing? How we doing? Let's give it another 10 seconds or so to have the rest of us join. For everyone that's here right now, I just want to say thank you for joining. Thank you for support. We're gonna have a really good talk today. Hold on one second. All right, I'm good. So today is November 2nd, 2022. Um, it's actually day two of No Shave November. If you're unaware of what No Shave November means, please look it up. And once you find out what it means, leave a comment in the description. So this is me. This is a clue. Uh, on day two of No Shave November, I will not shave or groom for the rest of the month. And eventually I'll tell you why. The second thing is that I am wearing gray today. If you're familiar with the different cancer ribbons, a lot of all of the ribbons have a certain color, and each color is associated to a type of cancer. Me, I'm wearing gray to represent brain cancer, and it's also associated with uh, the talk that I wanted to give today because it hits home. Today, we're going to talk about the five stages of grief. I'm sure that everyone has experienced grief, at some point in their lives. It is definitely hitting home for me due to my mom's recent um, brain tumor diagnosis. So I have since moved to Memphis, Tennessee to be with her, to essentially live with her for the duration. And I've got to experience grief in all of its forms. But I want you to know that grief doesn't just affect, you know, the person that may have received the news, right? Grief affects, also affects the people that are associated with that person. So family members, friends, like we all experience it. The closer you are to that person, it's almost like you are experiencing it with them, although it's not directly affecting you. So if you're in the comments and you understand what the five stages of grief are, and you know what the five stages of grief are, let me know. Shout out to you all for showing support. Hey, Jamie. Also, you can see that I actually changed some of the color scheme here for it to be gray. Lola, how you doing? Um, you struggle with anxiety. We're going to have some talks about anxiety as well. I recently had a talk about how I acknowledged anxiety, understood it, did a lot of the research, and how I slowly but surely overcame anxiety. Kiki, thanks for joining. Thanks for the support. So let's talk about the stages of grief. I actually remember this from a psychology class that I took back in 1996, 97. I was in Korea and we needed to still get the college credit. So uh, I remember the acronym DABDA. So denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. If at any time during this talk, if you have experienced any one of those, definitely let us know and then write a little sentence or two on, what it meant to you and how you identified it, how you addressed it and overcame it or were able to move past it. Um, a little bit about me, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I do deal with anxiety quite often. And I feel like it's very, very important to understand what your triggers are. I feel like it's very important to be emotionally aware of, the things that you are experiencing, and also to be a little more on the empathetic side when people are talking to you. And also, just to be cognizant that there are people that are out there going through things, and you may be going through some things and not even know it, right? Sometimes it's hard to detect. Like even in myself, there are times where, I say to myself, am I depressed right now? I think I am. And then, you have to address why that is, and, you know, how to, and ways to move past it. All right. So let's talk about the first one. Um, Denial. Oof. So, this is the first phase. Either you got some news or something happened, or, you know, you heard something, or you received a diagnosis, or something happened. Normally, the first stage is to be in denial about it, to be in disbelief. No, no, no. Maybe there's a little bit of anger um, associated with that. As part of the denial phase. Maybe you lash out, you know, at people. There are some things that go on during the denial phase where, um, for the most part, it's like a coping mechanism, you know, for yourself. So there are things that you go through to help you deal with things like pain, on a physical and on an emotional level, and not to mention on a mental level. So the denial is also, a stage where your brain is kind of helping you absorb it all, if that makes sense, right? Let me go and look at these comments, right? So depending on what it is, each one of these stages will last longer than the other. And if anyone else has a comment on which stage they feel may be the most difficult, definitely let me know. All right, so let's move on to the anger phase. No, you know what? Before I do that, um, I'll talk about the denial phase and my most recent situation. Um, I would say the denial phase for me was um, kind of brief. You know, it was really, really brief, and I believe it was backed up by facts, right? When I received the news, it was directly from the doctor's mouth. Um, and in all honesty, I would say I didn't really believe it to be at the beginning, right? I really didn't. And then I actually took a trip to Memphis maybe a day or two later. And then when I was in the hospital and I actually saw what I saw the results from the scans, then um, there was no more denial from me. You know, Kiki says the depression is the most difficult, and Jamie says the denial feels like survival mode and protection. Yes, yes. So all true. So that was my experience with the denial. Then there's a little bit of anger. When you're angry, when you move on to the next stage, right? It's not necessarily the coping mechanism anymore. You're now like mad, and you may start to lash out at other people. You may start to lash out at yourself. You know what I mean? You're like really, really resentful, and you're trying to, it's almost like you're subconsciously trying to find a way to make you feel better, and sometimes when you get to release some of that anger, you know, starts to feel good in a way, although you still have to address, what's going on. If it was related to me and my situation, did I ever get angry? Yes. I have to admit I did get angry, but it was more of a quiet anger. And I think it was more of a selfish anger because, there are things that I wanted to experience. There are things that I want my mom to experience and to see. And when I think about her not being able to see that or experience that, then I get mad. Um, and not necessarily me, I have a daughter. Um, I think about her, I think about my nieces, I think about my nephew, I think about my other family members, I think about a possible wedding in my future, like all of those things. And then I just get mad, but I often find a way to quell that anger. I feel like I'm still in this stage to where I experience all of these stages of grief multiple times a day. And it's almost to a point where I actually recognize what stage I'm in and when I'm transitioning to the next stage. So, speaking of transitioning to the next stage, let's talk about the bargaining. And in the bargaining stage, that's when you start to, I don't want to say tit for tat, but that's when you start to um, look more towards the bright side of things, where you start to say, okay, um, if I could just do this, I'll be good. You know what I mean? If I can have, Thanksgiving with the family, I'm good. Or Christmas with the family, I'm good. Or you start to looking for um, moral, not necessarily moral victories, but you start being like, oh, you know, this person or I have lived a really good life. I'm really, really happy with what I have had, right? Those types of conversations go on in the bargaining phase. Oh, thanks, Lola. If you all have any other examples of bargaining, definitely let us know. I would definitely like to share that. You know, um, when you look at a lot of the reading material for the stages of grief, they mention a lot of like if only statements or what if statements, you know. Um, and I feel like when you are religious, the bargaining comes into play a lot more. You know, um, Also, I have a lot of religious people in my family, and even at the beginning, they would always say, ultimately God decides, right? Let's not play God. You don't know. Don't listen to the doctors and everything. And you know, oftentimes you just have to, even if you're not 110% taking the doctors for their word. Like you have done the research. The doctors have seen the doctors have seen how the same illness affects other people, and this is their profession, so they do have something to go on. Jamie says she was just about to mention the bargaining that goes into prayer, where you'd be like, Lord, please, if you just let me, and they talk about that a lot. They talk about as part of the bargaining, they talk about some of the things that you're willing to do in exchange for this, meaning like, Lord, please, if you just let me live till Christmas, I promise I'll be a good person, right? I promise I'll do this, I promise I'll do that. I have actually had a outer body experience where I've felt like I've actually had a conversation with a higher being, and I actually made that type of promise. You know, um, Lola says that she experiences a lot of what if statements as if I'm living in the future, and it's very hard to move past and be present. Yeah, I actually had a conversation last night about discussing the future and how to manifest the future and manipulate the future by listening to what's going on currently in the universe, right? And it got to a point to where I almost felt like I had enough superpowers to change my future. Like I've already seen my future and it's pretty good. And I have the ability to make changes to it if I want. Jamie says, yes, in exchange. I promise I'll change. I promise I'll get better. You've probably seen that a lot. Um, Probably seen that in the movies as well, like, the soldier movies or, what have you. Next is the depression. And, the depression hits different for everyone. Um, Personally, depression for me, um, I kind of like stick to myself or I don't go out. I'll remove myself from social media. I'll just be quiet. And it's like I just focus on myself. I focus on my work. I focus on getting things done. Um, but then I realize like I'm not eating. I'm not going outside. I've stopped working out. Like I've stopped calling my daughter. And then I'd be like, dang, am I depressed? Like I think I really am. Um, and then I have to figure out what am I depressed about? Why am I depressed? Because you know, it comes in different forms. Let us know what depression is like for you and what are some of the things that work for you when it comes to overcoming depression. In a lot of the readings, right, they often describe depression as like the stage where the grief stage where everything is quiet. You know, um, it's kind of difficult to define it. Um, they're often, uh, I guess, cures for depression. I used to read that back in the day, they would give you some form of Molly to get you over your depression. So you come in, um, you go and visit the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist would give you this water that's laced with a form of Molly. And then they'll go away for 10 to 15 minutes and then come back after you've already been drinking and it has already taken its effect. But you don't know that. And then they ask you, so how you feeling? And you're like, you know what? I feel pretty good right now. It's because you may have been secretly drugged up. Jamie says, I believe we can change our future. We are far more powerful than we know when God lives within us. I truly do believe that. I do. Kim Bella Renee says, I guess I'm at the depression stage because I'm living on an island. I really have to come out of this. Yeah. Um, so the getting out of the depression, some of the things that help for me is the baby steps, the small victories. And sometimes a small victory can be getting out of bed when the alarm goes off. Just something simple like that to kind of kickstart your day, kickstart uh, your positive outlook. Another thing is actually making up the bed after you get out of the bed. Especially like for someone like me, I used to not make my bed at all. I used to have this thing to where um, I wouldn't make the bed for someone else. I would be like, no, it's your bed. You make it up. Um, and then another thing that I would do is I would start creating these little tasks, small tasks that I want to complete during the day, and then write them down. And then when I see myself check them off, then there's some positivity behind that. That depression can be really, really bad. It can last minutes, days, hours, months, right? I know it can be easy to say, hey, just get out of it or just snap out of it, but it's not an easy thing. Um, I realized that over time that, you know, everyone is different. Everyone handles things differently. Um, but I also learned that um, everyone is affected by someone. I mean, everyone is affected by something, right? And I feel like your past experiences are what you use to deal with what you're currently affecting. And most often it's a protection mechanism. So for me, I would say my safe space is just me by myself. And I feel like that's because of my upbringing. I often mention, you know, how I came up in my school life. I was picked on a lot for being like one of the few black kids in school, one of the only black kids in class. So I always felt like an outsider. I always knew I was different. So me keeping to myself, me creating an environment to where I feel safe mentally and emotionally, but by myself, um, is what helped me cope. And I feel like that's also related to my love language, to where for me, it's just quality time. Like I really only need you to exist in my space and not cause any trouble, and I can fall for you. You know. Um, Kim Bella says, "I'm working on getting into a routine to get me past this. Good for you. Good for you. If you need any additional research or what have you, DMs are always open for assistance, and I can talk through some things that have worked for me. There's also a video of things that have worked for me. You may have also seen videos of the mental challenges from working out to, yes, even the cold showers or something that you are um, looking forward to doing. So if you have an event in the future that you're preparing for, like for me, it's No Shave November, and that's a thing that can keep me going through the month of November. It's something that's taking me away from thinking about uh, what's actually occurring presently. Jamie says sometimes you let depression run its course. It comes with information, and if I pay attention, something I'm ignoring needs a fresh perspective. Yeah, sometimes you're right, Jamie. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and say to yourself, like, should I approach this differently? Am I approaching it the way that I would always approach it? And is that even working for me right now? And yes, we're all sending love to Kimbella. So now we're at the last stage, and you can see that I took a deep breath before that. And the last stage is the acceptance stage. For me, accepting it, I always say that I have accepted it. Um, and yes, I can truly say that I am okay with it. But I feel like there is a lot of things that are going on with that. I am the oldest of all of my siblings. So I feel like, what's the word? I feel like I'm supposed to be the strong one. They, funny thing is, they do know me as the emotional one. They do know me as the crier of the family. But in this situation, I feel like it's been um, a little bit different. I have felt compelled um, to be strong about it. And admittedly, like I do, um, I do address it like when I'm out. Like if I'm on the treadmill, like it'll hit me. If I'm driving to the gym, like it'll hit me. Driving home, it'll hit me. Like normally when I have a quiet moment to myself, it'll hit me, and then I have to go through the acceptance piece all over again. I'm going to touch on that again, but Preston says, I'm a 20-year-old black male and I have a lot of anger issues. Any advice on trying to control the anger? I'm going to start this, Preston. I'm going to go back. I'm going to come back to that after I get through the acceptance piece. Um, Another reason why I feel like I have accepted it is because, you know, I think it's the approach that my mom has taken. And, you know, if ever, I really have never seen her be like mad, angry, or depressed or anything like that. Yeah. I feel like she's accepted it from the very beginning and is ready. And her approach to it was just always, I'm good. It's going to be my time at some point eventually, and keep the party going. What you crying for, you know? And we have really candid conversations, really open conversations about the end, and it's different, you know. Having those conversations, it's very different to hear someone speak about uh, their end. But I feel like in the end, hopefully I'll be able to smile through it because of me knowing firsthand how she feels about it. You know, I think I always think I might even be the only one, you know, at the funeral smiling because I know. So yeah, Lola says we have siblings. Any suggestions for only children? You know, for anything that's heavy, for anything that is even remotely difficult, I always say there's no need to address it alone, right? There's a lot of people out there that are experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing. There's a quote that goes something like, "Go and find your tribe," and you can have many tribes for a lot of the things that you're experiencing. And no, Preston, I haven't forgotten about your question. Um, but for those that are the only sibling, you may experience a lot of things differently. Um, Maybe also like in a selfish way as well. I'm not saying that you're selfish, but if you don't have a sibling, I would reach out to friends. I would find an outlet of people that are experiencing something that's similar to you so you can feel that connection and they will have that connection with you. Um, Acceptance is powerful. Thank you so much again, Lola. Marriott. There was mention of prayer earlier. Um, my mom's favorite is 23rd Psalms. So we still pray every day. We do have to accept the things that we cannot change. And hello, Tiffany. So if you have any questions or comments, I do have about 5 minutes for any questions or comments. I'll read them out. I'll try to address them. But we're coming to a close. I do want to have a part two this weekend because I've had a few people reach out to me about joining me. So I definitely would like to have multiple people join, hear their stories, and even have a panel one day soon. All right. So, um, Preston, let me go and find that. All right. Preston says, I'm a 21-year-old black male and I have a lot of anger issues. Any advice? I'm trying to control anger. Um, Here's what I would say. Um, I would say try to spend some time and write down what you feel your triggers are that make you angry. You know what I mean? It could be a long list, it can be a short list, but I'm sure that if you think about the last few instances where you were mad, think about what happened in that instance that made you angry. Why did you pop off? Why did you snap? at someone. What did they do? Don't necessarily think about how you should have responded. Just think about how you responded. And then I feel like once you identify what your triggers are, then you could start to notice that your triggers are about to um, are about to, what's the word I'm looking for? Be triggered, you know? And then once you start to recognize it, then that is your way to be a step ahead of being angry. And then also, I would think about ways to de escalate, right? And then say out loud some of the things that you can do to de escalate. Say out loud some of the things that you can do that have worked, that have prevented you from getting to a point of anger. And say it out loud so your brain can hear it. And then start practicing that. Um, I know personally, with the PTSD, I would get angry when I can't remove myself from the situation. When I start to feel trapped, when I start to feel cornered, then I would lash out. But now I start to recognize that, and I'd be like, you know what? I feel this coming. I'm going to walk away. I really don't care about how you feel about me walking away. You can say that I don't want to address anything. You can say that, I don't want to, I'm not man enough to have this conversation. I am. I just don't want to do it while I'm mad. Boom. What else do we have? All right. We have a few more comments and then we'll call it a day. Um, Thank you, Anissa. It was so good that that the conversation was able to help you. Tiffany says, I would suggest that you find the trigger first, yes, and what's the actual cause of the anger. We have multiple comments about addressing the root cause of the anger. Usually it's love. And lastly, Jamie says, I hear a lot of men say meditation has helped, literally for rage and anger, because meditation balances and increases the gray matter in the brain. Yes, I've actually tried. It's called Transcendental Meditation. I didn't go through the whole course because at some point, whoever the instructor is supposed to give you a word, and that's the word that you focus on during the meditation. But I used to do 20 minutes a day, and I would listen to my breath or listen to the exhale, whichever one was louder. That's the one I would focus on. So you just set a timer for 20 minutes. And just close your eyes and focus on that. Sometimes you fall asleep. Sometimes you can literally experience all of these different thoughts, and both of those things are a good thing because it is your brain flushing flushing those thoughts out. And if you can do it 2 times a day, then do it 2 times a day. Even a 20-minute nap is really, really helpful. All right. So again, I just want to touch on a couple things. It is No Shave November. So um, I will not shave or groom, and it's to help bring cancer awareness. So the goal is for me to not shave, and people notice that I haven't shaved, and then they ask me why I haven't shaved, and so I tell them. Another thing is I'm wearing gray. Gray is for if you look at the different cancer ribbons, gray is the color for brain cancer or for a brain tumor. So yeah. Um, but we've been here for about 35 minutes. I want to thank you all for the support, and I look forward to seeing you all this weekend. We're going to have a part 2 on the stages of grief. We're actually going to have people come up, talk about their stories, and it should be good. I actually have a really good friend that I grew up with that has experienced a lot, and his father owned a funeral home too, so he got to see a lot of it firsthand. So that should be a really, really good conversation. SJ, how you doing? And if anyone else would like to join and tell their story or just to be up here and talk about it, definitely let me know. You can find me at Tyrone21 on all the major platforms. Just either send me a DM or um, yeah, a DM will work. I was trying to figure out if I do have a my mental health website. I believe I do. Let me get it really, really quick. Yeah, I do. I'm gonna post this link. So I have a site called PaperCall. So if you go to papercall.io/MMHJ, what you can do is you can either submit um, something that you would like to talk about, or you can forward that link to someone else who you think may have a good story to tell. And this is how we vet a lot of the topics and a lot of the speakers. So this is a good platform. All right, I'm gonna go for real this time. Thank you all for joining me, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon. All right, have a good day.